Sometimes it's a case of a good idea, bad pitch.
Sometimes ideas would get borrowed is so nice, just say stolen.
Okay, I'm shocked by a few of the statements about acknowledgement of your clever work being enough payment for stealing it. That's ridiculous.
Those people who say that it is about the relationship, I say that's rubbish.
So we paid it, but immediately the standard went way up higher. We're expecting something better than the rest.
Can I have my money back, please?
At some point, we feel cheated.
It's great to see you all. And what better place than Parliament House to have a debate on a contentious subject like whether clients should pay a pitch fee. The client-creator relationship is always a little bit touch and go. If you are a creator, you will want to have a warm relationship with your client. You want your client to buy. So what happens? You then put all your effort into this proposal. You perhaps even spend money on a survey or images or music or some other form of investment in order to make your clients buy. You then prepare the materials full of hope, and you then send that off as a PDF document, perhaps PowerPoint slides, maybe even a Windows media file, whatever it happens to be, all in an effort to get the yes, we're going to hire you from people on this side of the room. Then you find that for whatever reason, there's not the acceptance that you'd hoped for. In some cases then, you find that you still don't make the sale. You still have trouble getting people to say yes. You don't hear from them again. 3, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, maybe 12 weeks later, you then discover something that looks remarkably like your idea online somewhere, or in the newspapers, or on a billboard, or in television. And then you think, I've put in so much time and effort in order to pitch my idea and hope for a sale. And now I end up with nothing and somebody else has implemented my idea. And sometimes maybe the temptation is there to take bits of the ideas that were submitted and implement them yourself, find somebody cheaper to implement them for you. Maybe you're more ethical than that and you think, I'm not going to do that. But you find that other members of the team, or maybe even somebody on a higher level in the corporate ladder, goes and does that anyway, just borrows a few ideas. And so it's in this context that it's really no surprise that the honourable members on this side of the House would like to charge pitch fees. This is a contentious issue, clearly, because as we've seen, there are so many views on this discussion. There are so many concerns on both sides of the House that this debate, should clients pay a pitch fee, is actually much broader and encompasses issues such as idea theft. Whose idea is it anyway? And if an idea has been supplied and maybe even paid for, does it really belong to you? And I'd like to hear from you now, as we all take part in this debate, and hopefully in half an hour or so, we will have some conclusions, and we're still all friends. So, who would like to make the opening statement, either in favor of the clients or in favor of the creators?
Pierre from Zone Media, media owner, and also a creative service agency to a large degree. Actually, I don't want to make a statement for or against at the moment. One of the things I'd like to ask first of the House is if there are any people here representing government bodies who call for pitches, and perhaps express to this side what the current government policy is on creative pitches, where often we're asked through GBiz to submit quotes to do certain jobs. I do this all the time, my team works on that a lot, and I feel quite confident that the government is behind us all the way and saying we're not going to just steal your work and run away with it. And perhaps that could be looked at as perhaps a role model for the more commercial operations that are in place. Is there anyone here that is from a government department that's familiar with the current policy on creative pitches, as in you must give us a quote but also send in some designs before you get the job?
Do we have anybody from the government? In a sense, we're all the government tonight. Perhaps we don't, but let me ask other people on this side of the house. Do you submit to GBiz? Have you gone for government pitches through the government, the platform? Not often, maybe a handful of times? Yes, I do see some nodding over there. Maybe I can get Chris Jones here from Magma Studios to explain. What is it like?
Well, I feel really similar as a good gentleman over there. Sorry.
Pierre.
Honored gentleman Pierre. I feel quite secure with the government procurement situation as far as intellectual property protection. I think the real debate here is in the commercial space. Is the pitch fee sometimes justified? I believe it depends on the circumstance largely. I've been paid $7,000 for a pitch before, and I've had my idea stolen before. So it largely depends on how much work you're doing, the kind of creative track record you have. Can you stand on your credentials, and can they trust you to be able to deliver, or it kind of depends on the situation. So.
By the way, who on this side of the house has had ideas stolen before? Yes? Hands going up. Don't worry, the cameras are not tuned into Parliament House on the other side of that wall. This is just between us today and YouTube. So I think there's a general appreciation that things have not gone as they should have from time to time. Would you like to also tell us your experience?
Okay, I've had a few experiences with GB. I put together a creative for a school, a team building, a very large team building project. Came up with the idea, even went so far as to meet with them, gave them everything because they wanted everything, and essentially I was told I would pretty much get the job. I needed to apply, so I certainly applied.
Through GBiz,
Through
right?
GBiz, yeah, through GBiz. And then when it sat on hold for about 8 months. In that time in GBiz, or what happened during that 8-month period was that my cameraman costs had increased, and therefore when it came time to make the proper proposal, put in the proper proposal through GBiz, my quote was higher than what we had discussed with the school principal. Essentially, in short, the situation was disastrous. I didn't win the job. She very clearly stated that she liked my ideas and that she has found another company that will do exactly as we had come up with, and that was it. You know, job completely done and over, and I was done and over with.
Thank you. Let's hear from the client side. Has this happened in your area? Has it happened in your company? Or what experience do you have that matches or otherwise answers the comments that we've just heard?
My name is Nader. I'm currently with Microsoft, but much more a client during my Hewlett-Packard days and my Element 14 days. Yeah, I mean, I can see. I agree with Chris that the answer really does. It depends on the size of the need, on the business objectives and how new they are, or is it another run-of-the-mill campaign that just needs customers to buy, you know, the flavor of the month. So I think it does depend. I think when clients hire, they hire because they have a need or they don't have the requisite skill sets in-house. So they're, from that standpoint, lacking. So what comes through the door is often good ideas, inspiration. And there's I'm not justifying, and I agree with you.
You have
with,
parliamentary
it depends,
privilege
yeah.
tonight.
But I think the point is, you know, like you said, we have 3, 4, 5 different companies coming in to share their thoughts. It's almost impossible to not build. It's like feedback. Take the feedback, build, refine, till it becomes very clear on what's the best way forward. So I think it gets difficult to start segregating lines, and was this a new idea, was it not? I added on to it, so it's morphed into a different blend. It's a blended idea, so the lines become very hazy. Once we accept an idea and go with it, sometimes, at least it happened to me 2 or 3 times, I've seen that same idea recycled by another company in a different industry, but the same creative, same idea, same strategy. And at the same time, I think at that point, also feel cheated. That something isn't right. So I think I agree. It depends. It really depends on the scale and how unique the objectives are.
I think what we've just heard is obviously, clearly it's not fun creating an idea and then seeing it implemented by somebody else. But how often do these ideas actually get recycled? And I guess that comes back to our broader question of, should you be paid to pitch when you might be receiving payment many times over for essentially the same idea? So, Marshall.
I represent the investments business, investing in nuts and bolts, physical goods. Sometimes I work in securities, sometimes not securities. Often I work with government agencies to create infrastructure. As soon as you have a complex project, you're dealing with a complex idea. And usually neither side, the creator nor the acquirer, understands how complex it is. It's a learning process. So the question becomes also, should you be paying education fees? Because the creators are creating ideas, they're also learning what the real need is. I didn't convince myself the first time what I really wanted because I thought I wanted this, but in fact I wanted some of that. Now, what should I pay you to help me learn? Should I tender it? Should it not be a fee, but a tender? I'll award this amount of money to the five top qualifiers, or a merger team, and that'll be an implementation fee, and a design fee, and a support fee. Again, it gets quite complicated. Sometimes the solution in big projects is you pay have an NDA. Again, it becomes a question of litigation. It doesn't solve any of these problems. The question is, how do we get to contract?
I would have been much more appreciative if I had received a thanks. We loved your idea. We are really sorry about the price thing, and we will get somebody else to do it in a roundabout sort of way. Some sort of acknowledgement. I wasn't even necessarily for the money.
Acknowledgement. So maybe acknowledgement is payment enough. Yes, I hear some laughter over here. Yes, Rod.
Hi, Rod from CNBC, but I'm on the creative solutions side. But I'll play this side. I'm kind of divided between should you pay fees. Yeah, I think if I was a company and asking, because we do ask creative agencies sometimes for work that is either too big for our team, we'll ask, hey, can you give us a pitch? Or this is the idea we have, can you, like for different people or companies, say, send us their quotes. But I wouldn't mind paying for like a fee for your idea, but then how much should you pay, as you guys are putting it, is, well, I can't say, okay, every idea that comes to me is $500, because I could have somebody just say, oh, we'll show a happy face and where's my $500? And you can't, it's really tricky to judge, oh, this is a good one, here's just not good, so here have $30 or whatever the fee is. So like she was saying, I've seen my ideas in other channels because I've worked with, and at some point we feel cheated, but then I feel flattered. They liked our idea. I wouldn't say they couldn't afford us, but they're just doing the idea, which is kind of nice, but it kind of sucks that they're not saying thank you or we like your idea, but we can't afford you, so we'll get somebody else to try to do it.
So it sounds like you're between many chairs. There's a mixed emotions. It's
Yes.
not one or the other.
Yes.
So if you were to be charged pitch fees, would you pay them at all?
I would, but again, it depends. Like as a company or as a individual, if I have the decision, I wouldn't mind paying for a good pitch or a good idea. If 3 people have great ideas, then I don't mind paying for a service, because I don't mind paying for a service. If it's not going to be a good service, then I don't feel like paying for it. So it's really tricky for me to say, well, I'm not going to pay anything because none of these ideas are good. There's no set limit to.
So in other words, you end up paying at the beginning of the process, even though the ideas might be like the proverbial box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're going to get. And in the end, you might not get anything at all. But let me come back to this point about at least receiving some form of acknowledgement. Would that make you happy? That you at least get, thanks, we love your idea, but we don't like your price, and so we've handed it to somebody else. Would that be sufficient?
Hi, I'm Thibaut. I'm representing a mobile technology company. We are pretty much in the innovation space, and we build some solutions over time, but when we build customers, when we meet customers, many times we customize for them. And we are in technology, but whatever we do can be replicated easily. So what we find very often is that as a small company, when it comes to big projects, our customers or prospects might have a tendency to aggregate companies, ideas of small niche technology company, and at the end of the day, they will award the project to bigger conglomerates who have the capacity to take all of these ideas, hire different partners, and put everything together with all the credentials that big companies might have. So for us, obviously, the pitching part is important because it's where we can open the door, and also we need to secure this part being independent. So I can see the point very difficult, being very difficult for client not knowing in advance whether ideas will be good or not. Yes. Yes. So I'm kind of curious how this could be done in an efficient way, so that both clients are safeguarded against bad pitches and people just coming with bad work and still be paid for it, and people who have done a decent job to get some sort of acknowledgement, be it financial or a kind of partnership, or just a nice thank you.
Good, thank you, Thibaut. Well, let me ask you: have you ever paid pitch fees? Has anybody here actually written a check for? No? Getting a lot of shakes of heads, except from Nader. How much did you pay, and what was the project for? Please.
I don't remember. It's one of those things you just put out of your mind.
Painful experience, was it?
It was. We weren't happy about it. It was an important project. We really wanted to get some good creative ideas in, so we did it. Not all the agencies asked for a pitch fee, but I could tell you the one that did, we debated. They said it's important because of the time and the resources, and the creative power that's going to go into it. So we paid it, but immediately the standard went way up higher compared to the rest. And so we said, if we're paying for it and the others not, we're expecting something better than the rest. And it almost makes you feel you don't know, right? Because it's always a strategic game, and are we being honest or not with each other, right? We're talking about services. I don't know if I'm getting the best minds on the other side. I don't know if I'm getting a brand new idea versus I don't know. So immediately the standards go way up higher and become a lot more challenging. Become a lot more challenging to as much as possible almost guarantee that what you're getting is something that truly is worth a pitch fee.
And something that you don't see repeated or replicated elsewhere, which was the point you were making before. So how does it usually work? Because as a branding agency, obviously you also have to win clients. Do you just show your track record and say these are the brands that we've worked for?
Yeah, that's right.
You don't come up with ideas as part of
We've been doing
pitch.
that for the last 17 years, and we don't go into free pitching. Right.
So what sort of, when you have pitched for a fee, what sort of fees have you been able to attract?
Well, depending on the project, there are those that goes for a couple of thousands, but we don't take anything less than that.
A couple of thousand rupiah or a couple of thousand?
Singapore
dollars,
yeah.
right. Okay, so nothing less than a couple of thousand.
And you've got to back it up with your track record. What you have done, what you have delivered, and you've got to show your value. It's like buying a brand. And you don't buy invitation.
Yes, so the brand agency itself is the brand. Thank you, Patrick.
Guna from Singtel, and I work on the TV side of the business. I guess, not a direct answer to your question, but the question back is, we pay for a pitch, and the pitch is not up to the mark. Would they be open to returning the pitch fee back? Right. At the end of the day, the question is, how original is an idea? You know, at the end of the day, an idea is A plus B equals to C, right? And generally, I guess from an agency side, don't get me wrong, I'm generalizing slightly. The job is to sell to clients, right? And you're there, your job is to sell, and you have to convince us clients sitting on the other side that this is the idea, this is the great idea, this is the brief you gave me, this is why I think it's going to be a great idea, right? And when the deal is closed, great, right? So for me is paying a pitch fee, I'm neutral on it, right? Because many a times we sit on this side, and when we receive pitches, whether, for me it's more of a TV product more than anything else, we are quite underwhelmed, and you just go, right, so where's that gone? So if you talk about 500 or 1,000, maybe, but if it's a bit more, then you're like, can I have my money back, please?
Well, hold that thought and hold on to the microphone, and let me put it again over to this side of the house. If you received a pitch fee and the client did not accept it, would you give the money back?
I guess if it's strongly argumented that that idea is not original, or maybe if there was some kind of exchange before the pitch on what the client wouldn't want to hear because somehow they've seen it, it's not the right direction, then I think it's a matter of good understanding before where a pitch should be going, what kind of originality, because there are different like various kind of creativities, you could say. But so if a customer would like a pitch and clearly you cannot come up with something that is good enough, and sometimes as a salesperson, you know when you have done a good job or not, you know when you arrive prepared or not. And I think out of fairness, you could say yes on that one. I mean, I can see where you want to go, and I give you that pitch, but maybe it's not satisfactory enough. Fine, I'll be better next time, and I'll give you money back.
Actually, sometimes, sorry mate, sometimes it's a case of a good idea, bad pitch. And you're sitting there, and it's like, you sit there and go, that's a good idea, but mate, you're just not selling it well. You know, and then you try and, you know, when you take it away, you try and sit there and say, let's see what we can do with it.
Right. Okay. Well, so far, actually, that's been a range of very interesting commentary, including that you would be prepared to give it back. But then that begs the question, why accept the pitch fee in the first place? As long as there is a commitment that whatever idea is pitched, you don't accept it, you want your money back. I suspect the creator side would be willing to pay you the money back if they could be sure that you are not going to use the idea afterwards. And you would be prepared to do that? Not so sure, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the short answer. I can't say, like I said, the originality of the idea is a question. And I guess in the TV business, we borrow. It's more not idea theft, but it's idea borrowing. And nature of the industry is you do that a lot. So okay. You know, in terms of, well, theft is a strong word, I suppose. So that's why I'm neutral in terms of whether will I give the money back.
Right. So Rod, how did you feel when your ideas were borrowed? Was that considered theft, or are you okay with borrowing of ideas? Because they might give them back afterwards.
Well, I'm a strong supporter of open source, because there's a whole bunch of open source everything on the web now. And yes, it was my idea, but ideas, I would say I'm not the smartest or the brightest person. All of my designs are always based on somebody else's work. And I guess it's just inspiration that I got out of somewhere. Yes, it's my idea, but I got inspired by somebody else. And I'm not paying that person anything or compensating him or saying, thank you, so-and-so, for that great moment of like light bulb that is like, oh, okay, that can evolve to this.
Okay, I'm shocked by a few of the statements about acknowledgement of your clever work being enough payment for stealing it. That's ridiculous. You're a very modest man. I personally, as a creative director, am not that modest, and I have come up with ideas that People have said, wow, I've never heard that idea before. And just because I've been paid a pitch fee for it, I'm not selling the idea, I'm getting a pitch fee. So you can't use that idea just because you paid me a pitch fee. What is a pitch fee? It's a fee to enter a pitch. However, there are different types of organizations here where all these rules don't really apply across the board. There's no simple answer for one thing. I'm a small player. I don't see Saatchis and Universal McCanns here saying yes or no to pitch fees. Maybe some of you are, I don't know. But for a start, it affects smaller players a lot more than it does bigger ones. However, the smaller players are playing in a big field, often with big players, where we find it very expensive and time-consuming to go for a pitch. I've actually been invited to a pitch for a major hotel, which we won, who said, hey, come in, Pierre, we like your stuff, and hardly anyone else is pitching. I found out during the pitch that there were like 6 mainstream agencies. Maybe I underpriced myself, but we won it anyway. But I was told, this is a quiet, easy pitch for a nice project, come in. And there were big agencies there. Now, I must assume, apart from my fairly straightforward creative, that the price won it in that case. Had everyone been paid a pitch fee, I think things would have changed dramatically there. I probably wouldn't have been invited because, as a small player, is a Microsoft going to pay Zoe Media to come in? Even though my ideas would work for Microsoft, by the way. But are they going to pay me $5,000 just to come in with my brilliant ideas? I doubt it. But would they pay a Saatchi or a Universal McCann? Yes, they would. Do the big agencies need to be paid? Maybe not, because they're bigger and they can afford to do a pitch. So I think the broad question of should we get pitch fees is just too broad to be answered simply, depending on the size of our business, the size of the client. Most of my bigger business is from the government, and I found them pretty good to deal with. However, even inadvertently, they accidentally use things. There's a relationship between the buyer and the seller usually beforehand anyway. So they know your background. My company's 18 years old this month. We've been here since 95, and our creative is up there. You can see it everywhere. Why do I have to go through a pitch? You know what I do. I've got a portfolio of 18 years of stuff I've done for every ministry in Singapore. Why should I do a creative pitch? Either you like my style, and some of them do buy it just on that basis. So if you're dealing with big agencies, a Microsoft dealing with a Saatchi or an Ogilvy or something like that, they know those guys are terrific already. Why go through all this? I'll pay you to come up with ideas, 10 of you. When you know what you're buying, it's like saying, I'm going to buy a Mercedes car, but I want you to go through a lot of safety tests for me and road tests because, you know, I might buy a Volvo instead. We all know Volvos are safe, and we know Mercedes is safe. We know Ogilvy is safe, and we know Saatchi is safe, even though occasionally they get sacked for something they do. But so the point I'm trying to make, long-winded, I'm sorry I'm talking too long, is I don't think there's a simple answer to this, and I think it needs to be categorized with smaller players and bigger players.
When I was a producer, the reality is, yes, sometimes ideas would get borrowed is so nice, just say stolen. Some ideas get stolen, you get pissed off, you get over it because you kind of accept that's the nature of the business. It's about selling, it's about getting your idea and hopefully at the right price so that your client will buy into it. Do I think that having a pitch fee as a producer will lessen the pain if further down the line it gets stolen? Probably not.
I'm in the very small training and team building space, so I am slightly different. I've got to say, those people who say that it is about the relationship, I say that's rubbish. A lot of the time when I go into pitch, and I don't know these people from large corporations that need a trainer to come in or a new team building idea, They just want, and to their credit as well, they're doing absolutely their best, but they have an enormous amount of pressure. These training coordinators, head of HR, head of training, or whatever it might be, and they are under enormous pressure to get the best trainer or whoever it might be with the most creative ideas, the most loveliest ideas.
At the best price.
At the best price, full stop. Full stop. Whether you have a nice smile, whether they like you, whether they might want to have a drink with you afterwards, is not even in the mix. So I think it's rubbish to think that it's about building. Sure, after maybe a few years, it would be lovely to have a lovely relationship, but at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line and whether they think they're going to get a good deal.
I'm just adding something to the discussion here. The fact that I go and advocate for these people I represent, I think becomes some sort of a deterrent on the client side, because they know that there is somebody who knows that this idea has exchanged hands or has been presented. So just the fact that I go and or I have put these two people together makes it less likely that the other party steals this idea, because it's just my being in this deal becomes the deterrent. And I'm hoping, through PitchMark, it becomes that sort of deterrent because not everyone has an agent or someone advocating for them or a lawyer necessarily. You can't, IP lawyers' fees are just crazy. So the point is to just have that deterrent in some shape or form so that clients don't get away with stealing.
I think lastly, the question I have is, what then becomes a pitch, right? It can't just be the current standard and you pay money for it, right? Again, I mean, if a UM asked me for $500, I'd kick them out before I even heard anything else. If they ask me for $5,000, again, the standards go up. So I don't know, but what does a pitch mean? Is it a consultation session? Is it, okay, I like what you're coming to, can we discuss this further? Can we rehash it? Can we discuss it and debate it? Can we have that opportunity? I still don't know if I'll go with you because the team doesn't give me confidence. Is that the new definition of a pitch? I don't know. And I think finally, depending on the client, it might also be interesting that the agencies pay the pitch fee. If it, almost like a tender, we're going to have a $500,000 program, it's 6 months to a year, or it's a $50,000 program, 3 months to 6 months. There was only 5 people invited to participate. Do you want to participate?
I'd like to briefly sum up what has been some very interesting points, both on the creator side as well as the client side. We've heard that for some, a pitch fee is a must. Idea theft is completely out. We've heard that at least a thank you is appropriate, and I'd say that's a common courtesy we could always extend. We've also heard some reticence on the side of the creators that they would even want to charge a pitch fee. I think there are a lot of people on this side of the house who would much rather not risk a relationship with the client, shallow as that may be. They would much rather not risk being put in front of you than to get paid a pitch fee. And on this side of the house, we heard a lot of concerns too about ideas being shopped around, about the quality of the pitches that they receive, about the extent to which you are willing to go if you receive a pitch fee, or are you just happy to take the money and run? And we also heard some concerns about how exactly you're going to make that work if you do in fact get the pitch, get the gig. Will you be able to execute? In summary, and again in the absence of any further comments, speak up now or forever hold your peace. It looks like what we have discovered, while we haven't come to a conclusion as to whether or not clients should pay a pitch fee, what we have discovered is that there are myriad of motivations on the creator side that can't possibly be represented with a blanket yes. And we've also heard a myriad of concerns, and I'd say fairly valid issues with this idea of paying money and then perhaps not liking the idea. We've also heard a myriad of conflicts and concerns on the client side for why they should not pay the pitch fee. The bottom line, I suppose, that we need to draw from this discussion is that there needs to be more communication between the two. There needs to be a more open and transparent relationship between the two. And perhaps some of the shadow play that currently goes on, where you're kind of looking across the table and assessing each other to see whether you are trustworthy with the ideas, that some of these things need to change. The relationship needs to become more formal so that the quality of the pitches can be benchmarked, perhaps. The relationship needs to be more transparent, built on trust and respect, and not with ideas being borrowed or stolen, as you so eloquently pointed out. So with that in mind, I'd now like to adjourn the House. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.